Football season's over. It means it's time to talk fantasy baseball. All coming up next on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, sponsored by Fantrax, the most customizable free commissioner service in fantasy sports, and also by Underdog Fantasy, home of the biggest best ball contest in the industry. It is Sunday night. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. Jeff, how are you? We got football's done, right?
Football's done, although I'm doing a 2023 mock, or no, it's a best ball.
You are not
on air tomorrow, right after our show. Hey, football never ends. The grind never ends, no matter what sport we do. The grind, come on, like we're working in a salt mill or something. Come on, hey, it never ends, but that's fine. It focuses on college hoops. I mean, in baseball. Right now.
Did anything happen in college hoops today? I didn't see anything.
Something happened. We haven't seen it on sports yet, so it's not official. But
did any really top teams lose or anything like that?
I'd like to prefer to think that another team dressed in all black today actually won, and that was beautiful. And yes, Northwestern beat Purdue. We had first time we've ever beaten the AP #1 team in the country.
Wow.
We were 0-19 prior to that, so I think it's our biggest single game win ever. I mean, maybe not the most meaningful, but the biggest still, single game win. It was amazing. The fan base is going nuts this year.
Was it a home game or at Purdue?
Home game, court storm,
blackout
with the shirts and everything.
That's awesome.
And the thing is, we typically have terrible attendance, but this year the students have gone nuts, even well before, like very early when there wasn't as much reason to have faith, and to the point where they had to create more seats for the students. And nice. all the student section game tickets are always sold out. We can't do much about the other sections. Other opposing Big Ten fan bases can invade a little bit, but it's getting better and better. It was a national advantage today, and that was pretty cool.
That's awesome, because in college basketball, that actually makes a difference. I missed the days when Stanford had a home court advantage. They do not anymore, although they beat Arizona this week.
I was just going to say, big win. Beat number 4 Arizona.
We used to have a really good home court advantage when I used to go to games and be a season ticket holder back in the day, but it's just kind of gone away now that they're not very good. But
Todd Lichty is shaking his head and just dismay.
That's a great name drop, because I love Todd Lichty. I love that dude. He was the car crash he got into kind of ruined his pro career. Was a bummer, because I thought he was going to be a decent NBA player too. So
yeah.
Anyway, nobody's probably here to listen to us talk about college basketball as much as I'd love to talk about 80s college basketball, because it was great. But we're here to talk some baseball. This is definitely the day where, baseball season starts, at least in my mind. Football's done. Super Bowl's over tonight. We got fantasy drafts. There's a lot of drafts going on. Are you drafting anywhere yet?
I've done 2 NFBC 50s. I did the Arizona Fall League Speakers DC. I did one of the guillotine leagues.
You're not currently going DCs or anything like that? No, right?
Oh, let's say that again.
You're not doing any DCs at the moment?
I am not, but I do have the FSGA draft this on Wednesday and Thursday in Vegas.
All right.
And then Labor is a week from Tuesday, so it's picking up. It
is ramping up.
And I think I'm going to try to do a beat Jeff Erickson on the 27th. I have to check one more thing on my schedule, but I think I'm going to do the first of those. So it is starting to pick up a little bit now.
It definitely is. And now that football's over, I'm going to be fully jumping in here too. So I kind of want today to talk about, talk about early starting pitchers and then late hitters, kind of mix it up a little bit. We'll do half starting pitchers in the top 150. Then we'll talk about hitters after pick 250. I really like talking about later hitters. There's a lot of interesting names this year, kind of a mixture of like young guys who haven't panned out, some last year's bums, maybe some guys who are going to break out this year, but a few news and notes. The A's made a trade, Jeff. I don't know if you saw it. AJ Puck traded to Miami for JJ Bleday, a swap of top 10 overall picks. Did you have any thoughts on this from a fantasy angle at all? It seems like maybe Bleday is going to play a bunch in Oakland, and a lot of Puck's value might be on what role the Marlins put him in.
Seem like these two organizations like to trade with each other.
They do. We just all these studs that we have, we're just going to go ahead and give them the Marlins. Between him and Puck, it was going to be a stud. Jesus Luzardo, it's just I don't know. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, great. Here's the A's again trading away. But I saw it. Bleday was a 4th overall pick in 2019. He got some pop, but I don't know. I don't know if AJ Puck. I don't think AJ Puck's ever gonna be a starter. I think if you make him into a reliever, he could be really good. He was really good last year. They were gonna stretch him out. I don't know. Have you heard if Miami's kind of talked about what they're gonna do with him yet?
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
To me, this was like a trade my disappointment for yours sort of deal there. And
although
I don't know,
Puck was really good last year.
I know, just never healthy.
He threw 66 innings out of the pen. So like,
did he throw 66?
Yeah, 62 appearances, 3.12, 1.15 whip. Strikeout rate 27%. Like, you would think that if the Marlins just wanted to put him in the back in the bullpen, like, they don't have anybody there, right? Like, conceivably, we got Dylan Flora, we got a little Tanner Scott. They signed traded for Matt Barnes. Puck could find his way into that mix in the back of the bullpen pretty quickly if they wanted that to be his role.
Right. Because I don't need him to start.
Yeah. And I get why the A's were doing it. Like, we're going to see if one time he could be valuable for us as a starter. I don't think it was going to work. And I don't think the Marlins, it feels like the Marlins probably have too many starters at the moment, if anything. And
let's face it, there are jobs to be had in the A's outfield or anywhere in the lineup, really.
Sure.
I no offense. I made a joke on Twitter the other day. I was taking a look at the A's roster resource page. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Oh, my Reds are like saying, "Here, hold my Bud Light or hold my whatever." But
it's so bad. It's so sad. There's just, and the funny thing, we went back and we were joking on Twitter back and forth, like you were talking about how bad the Reds are, but like the A's don't have any fun or exciting to watch. The Reds have Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. Like, that's 40% of the games. Like, I'm going to tune in this game and watch it. Like, the A's have none of that. There's not like a hitter, like, at least if they watch a Royals game, like, oh, Bobby Witt's coming up. I'm like, oh, great. Ramon Laureano's coming up, I guess. Jesus Aguilar's coming up.
Ellie De La Cruz is on the way. That's another one, too. There's reasons to be excited. I mean, even like Tyler Stevenson has reason, there's reason to watch him. There's a reason to watch Jonathan India or just Joey Votto finishing his career.
For sure.
Yeah. No offense, but the A's don't have that.
They don't. That's the worst part. Like, at least if you're going to be bad, give me something interesting, exciting. And they have they're a bottom 5 farm system, and you see the rankings and stuff. It's just
it's like a hedge fund's running your team, and they put like this. They attach like this debt to it, the vehicle there, and strip mine it, and then they're going to sell it off. It's just it's gross.
It's bad. I'm very thankful for fantasy baseball because I do not really want to watch the A's this year. David Peralta signed with the Dodgers. An interesting spot because we talked last week about the Dodgers weren't quite as deep as they have been in years past. Maybe they need an extra bat in there. Peralta's 35, so it's not like they're grabbing someone. But a guy hits the ball pretty hard, has been good in the past. Not super exciting, but it seems like he, A, probably plays a little bit. B, makes it maybe a little complicated for other guys. Maybe the Dodgers platoon a little more than we thought.
Yeah, maybe so. They're a tricky team to kind of pin down a little bit there. How much is Vargas going to play? How much is, how much is Gavin Lux going to stick at shortstop? Are we really buying that? That's another one that I'm kind of like, I don't know. His arm looked pretty bad from second base. That's the thing that worries me a little bit about Lux being at short. I know he's had some time there, so it should be okay. But yeah, I do worry about that. But yeah, they're going to do a lot of mixing and matching. Are they really going to buy into Trace Thompson playing a whole lot? It's a weird lineup. It was a weird offseason for them. That after spending so much in the past, that they kind of sat on the sidelines for a good portion. Okay, JD Martinez, but no, that didn't really move the needle too much.
Yeah, it's weird. They're still going to be good, but you're right. They didn't have that big splash. I think the big splash is about a year away. And if you know what I mean in that regard in the free agency, because I think they're waiting for a gigantic splash that coming up the freeway from Anaheim for sure. I don't think Peralta really moves the needle here. Maybe if you're in a DC, get a late guy that you can, if the Dodgers are facing 3 righties in a period, maybe you can use him, that sort of thing. But he's probably going to hit 8th. So not too exciting, not a ton of pop, no speed. So it's more of a baseball move than a fantasy move. The only other note I wanted to bring up, Freddie Peralta, no relation to David Peralta, there was a note that He wasn't going to pitch in the WBC, but they have no injury concerns heading into spring training, which is a pretty good note. Obviously we take a lot of spring training news with a grain of salt, but how do you feel about Freddie Peralta? This is someone that was a third-round pick for us in drafts last year. Only pitched 78 innings last year. They were not as good as the 2021. He's still not bad. The whip was really good. The ERA was a little bit higher than you wanted.
Right.
But strikeout rate crashed a little bit. He definitely wasn't the same guy. Had some short outings in there. He's kind of frustrating if you picked him up. It's just there was not a lot of times you're like, oh, good, I'm feeling good about starting Peralta this week. How do you feel about him coming in 2023?
So this news doesn't change. I view this as a solid no change.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, it's the absence of bad news is fine. That's good.
Right.
But I am not going to bump up his innings or anything like that. ADP is 139 in the last month, basically. I feel like that incorporates the risk pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. A risk you want to take, or you're not jumping in there quite yet?
A risk I'm willing to take on the lower end of his range, like 25 other pitchers probably, but I'm not targeting him. I'm not avoiding him. How about that?
Yeah, I really liked him last year. He's one of my favorite pitchers to watch, but last year was tough and frustrating. I'm not sure I'm quite back in yet at that price. I think you have to slip a couple of rounds for me to grab him.
Yeah, that makes sense. And he very well could.
Yeah.
I mean, the pitcher market is pretty fluid right now. We haven't had the four guys that, report to spring training and, oh, you're not going to be ready. I mean, TJ Antone's not going to be ready. Okay, that's the one we've gotten basically so far. There will be some.
Speaking of not really moving the needle very much.
Yeah, pipe down. The attrition rate is going to get there, though, at some point. Yeah. We're going to lose a couple of starters. We're going to lose a couple of closers. And then once that happens, okay, now we'll see what sort of things happen. Plus, we haven't come close to a main event, let alone, and that's where we get the aces inflation.
Right. That's a good segue because I wanted to start out tonight with talking about some starting pitchers and kind of look at guys in the first 10 rounds of a 15-teamer, a little bit later than that in a 12-teamer, maybe there's 12, 13 rounds, but the top 150. Do you have any sort of general starting pitcher pool thoughts? Have you thought about, I want a certain amount of guys in the first 5 rounds. I want a top guy. Have you thought about how you feel about the general pitcher pool so far this year?
So far, I think everybody's waiting more than they have in the past.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Vlad was writing the other day, our friend Vlad Sedler from FTN was talking about how he's starting to see Burns creep up a little bit. You look in the last month, he does have a min pick of 6. So it's happened, but still ADP is at 16 and he's the first starter going. Cole's got a range of 6 to 40. And you never see that with Garrett Cole. I think that 40 is like the outlier.
Do you have cut lines in where you're looking?
I did. I just did. I didn't. I should probably remove cut lines.
Yeah, I did mine with draft champions to try to avoid the cut line, just because the pitchers
That's
go
smart.
so much later there that I think that you may get some freaky outliers from the cut line.
I'm going to do it with the online championship.
Yeah, that works.
RotoWire branded outline champion because I'm company man, unlike you, Scott. No,
there you go. Well, one of us has to be, so that's good.
Pipe down again. Pipe down, Jeff. Okay, on that one.
I do take the cut line out just because the scoring's so much different, and people wait on pitchers and closers, especially
9 to 24 for Cole on the online championship. Yeah. Although ironically. If you just do maybe it's because it's a 12-teamer and it's only 16 leagues. He's ADP is 21. Cole is as opposed to 19 in all drafts. So I think maybe it's the draft champions. Maybe there it gets pushed up a little bit more. Yeah. But it is interesting. But point being is, in a 15-team main event league, you'll see 2 or 3 aces probably go in the first round. Yeah. I'm not counting Shohei either because I think almost everybody that drafts him that early is going to use him as a hitter, 85 to 90% of the time.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets a 2-start week, that's an easy one, but maybe he gets 1 or 2 of those all year with the way they use.
And it's not even easy, because that means you're missing 7 games of hitting.
I think for 2 starts, I'd probably be pretty quick to do. I guess the only other weeks is that first week is when it's a half week. Those half weeks, maybe you get it's 1 start's better than 3 games of offense, but he starts in those half games all-star week. But you're right, it's about 85 to 90% of the time you're throwing him in there on offense, unless you got some extreme stuff late in the season, you're bad in pitching or something. But yeah, it's wild because we're so used to pitchers getting pushed up. Do you think that Jacob deGrom is like a end of the first rounder guy in the main event if he looks good in spring? Like how much do you think he could rock it up there if he was throwing 97 in the spring? Although he was doing that last year too.
How much he could or how much I will are completely two different questions.
I guess the answer is how much will he?
I mean, in the online championship, he's at 24 already. So that's the end of the second round of 12er. DCs, let's see. It's probably a little lower there, but not too much lower. No, it is a little lower, 26. So yeah.
I'd rather take him in a fab league than a DC league, to be honest, too.
Yeah, I would too. I'm not comfortable taking him in the first round.
I'm definitely taking the first round. It'd have to be. I don't think I'm going to take DeGrom.
I was going to say I'm going to struggle to take him in the second round too in the main.
And if you're taking him in the second round, you're not getting him. So
right, I agree.
And the theory is always like, oh well, he's going to look good in spring and all that, but he looked good in spring last year. Like he was throwing. He moved
first
way
overall.
Up.
Remember?
Yeah.
We did there's that weekend. Remember, it was the scheduling was different. Our Vegas weekend was early in the main event draft season
because the season got pushed back
because of the lockout. But there was a Thursday night draft, I think, when we went up there.
Yep.
And he was the 1.1 in the draft, and I think we got maybe some bad news on Friday or Saturday.
I think it was after the Saturdays because I know he went 5 and 6 on those Saturdays, but then by the next weekend he was we got bad news. So it was in between. The two main event weekends. There was bad news in between there.
Right. And we're going to have a quote unquote normal spring, not completely normal spring because of the WBC. And I don't think we talked about that enough.
Yeah.
But
although I looked at the American pitching staff and there's not a lot of aces on that staff.
It's not DeGrom. No. And there's no way he'd ever pitch in that. And that's the thing. Look at the Dominican Republic's lineup,
dude,
by the way.
That team is awesome.
I can't wait to watch them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
that team is
nuts.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I tend to think this is a typical problem where other countries probably have better representation, but pitchers, it's kind of like the Arizona Fall League. You see a lot more hitting prospects go there than you do pitching prospects, and it makes sense. Teams are protecting their pitchers there, and so when you mention Peralta not going, it makes sense. Yeah,
the American hitting is all-star. I mean, it's almost all really good players. But then you look at the pitchers, Jason Adams on the team, Daniel Bard. It's not a lot of Kendall Graveman. I'm looking at the lineup right now. I guess Kershaw is on there. I don't know if I want him pitching on the Dodgers.
Kershaw? Wow.
That's a name I did not expect. I mean, Ottavino's on there. I mean, it's just a bunch of. I mean, Adam Wainwright's one of the starters.
Kershaw's great. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't think the Dodgers would be on board with that. I guess they're at a point where they're it's a 1-year deal. Okay, fine.
Take
a look
surprised.
at Jason Adam, by the way, though. 75 strikeouts in 63 innings, 0.76 whip last year. He's good. Yeah. He's really good. At least he was last year. The Rays magic again, by the way.
God, he was. I knew he was good last year. He's a lot better than even I thought he was. So yeah. It's just. But in terms of starting pitchers, you got Nestor Cortez and you got Kershaw. Lance Lynn, I guess, is on the roster. Miles Michaelis. But yeah, it's not. When you look at the pitchers compared to the hitters, it's very clear that hitters are more willing to do this in the spring, which makes a lot of sense.
I mean, there is a difference between spring training outings and WBC outings in terms of the stress you put on the pitcher there. I mean, they're going to be on some pretty strict pitch counts, I got to imagine. But nonetheless, you're not going to be working on a different changeup in the WBC. You're not going to be getting that. Now, question: is the WBC going to be playing by the new rules that MLB is implementing in terms of the shift, in terms of throwing runners on, pitch clock, and all that stuff?
Really good question. I do not know the answer to.
I think spring training is going to be interesting to watch teams adjust to that, especially the defensive positioning. I think you're going to see some pretty funky outfield alignments just to see if it works.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm looking at the all WBC tournament games shall be played according to the provisions of the 2022 official baseball rules.
Oh, there you go. So no, you can shift like crazy.
It looks like it says the baseball rules, pitcher timer, base sizes, and restrictions on defense position not adopted for tournament games. So there you go.
Yeah.
But so cool. So let's jump into some starting pitchers. There's some names I wanted to throw at you, see how you feel about these guys. These are guys that are going early. These guys you're putting really premium picks on. And the first one I wanted to run by you is Sandy Alcantara, the Cy Young winner in the National League last year. Obviously, a huge 2022, 2.28 ERA, 0.98 WHIP, and 228 innings. That inning number is huge. We do not see many guys throwing 230 innings anymore these days. But, the K rate dropped a little bit. And as you hear people talk about him, that's always the issue. He's not an elite strikeout guy, although when you throw that many innings, the massive strikeouts does get there. Walk rate dropped a bit. That's a good thing. Huge ground ball guy. So, avoids big innings, avoids giving up too many home runs. Where are you on Alcantara? I think you were in on him last year. I forget, but I thought
2 years ago, I was way in
okay.
on him. Last year, I was hesitant about the price. This year, I will not be hesitant about the price. If he's going around that 2-3 turn, I'm very comfortable with it. So yeah, he doesn't strike out batters like crazy, but guess what? That's okay. That's why he gets so many more innings.
Yep.
And you get there in volume. He doesn't walk guys. That's what I really like.
Throws freaking hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, you didn't see. It's not like he lost velocity or anything like that. I will be in on him. If I get an early pick in the main, like 1, 2, or 3, I could see you taking him at the end of the second, beginning of the third. If that's the route I want to go, he'd definitely be. I'd be very comfortable taking him there.
If you're in that spot, do you prefer him or do you prefer Spencer Strider?
I prefer him.
Okay.
Just longer track record. I was a little concerned with how the Braves. The Braves had to kind of manage Strider's workload towards the end of the season. I always a little concerned when you have such a big jump. What happens the next year?
He threw 100 more innings than Strider last year. That's a crazy number.
And Strider threw 100 more innings than Strider did the year before too, I think. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the velocity was down in the playoff start against the Phillies too. He had a really bad playoff start against them, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I think that rings a bell. I don't remember totally for sure, but yeah, it's tough, right? Because I love Spencer Strider and watching him, he's so nasty. But man, if you're gonna be that second, third round, I think I'm with you there too. I think probably look at closer at that, but yeah, it's hard not to go with a guy that threw 230 innings last year. You're just getting so much more, And Strider, late in the year was a little banged up too, so that's it gets in your mind a little bit too. So he had younger. He had the oblique in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. It was the oblique. That's right. So it's not an arm, but still. By the way, the 3 years of age difference, I think that works against Strider and for Sandy a little bit there. I think the older you are, you're not immune from the injury bug, but I think it's a little like you've gotten through this so far. You've shown you can handle the workworkload. I think that's a thing. I assume
Strider's capped at maybe like 160 to 170 innings somewhere in there this year too. I think that if you get 160 innings, they'll probably be really, really good. But I don't think you're getting 200 from him in any way. They're not going to push that far.
Right. The trade-off is you get potential. There's a 250 strikeout season if he ever does get there. He could be Cole-esque.
Yeah, 38% strikeout rate on Strider is fairly absurd.
Yep.
Dropping down a little bit, about pick 42. I use the last 3 weeks for draft champions as I'm throwing these numbers out, but everything's fairly close when you throw them in. There's 44 in online championship. Dylan Cease, someone that was really good last year. I had him in my main event team that did well. 2-point TRA, 1.11 in 184 innings. The K rate did drop, but still over 30%, so still really good there. The issue with Cease always is the walks. The walks creep back up last year, back in the double digits at 10.4%. The big thing for me with Cease is I watched him a lot in the second half last year, and I thought he was a different pitcher in the second half. K rate went from 34% to 24%. His BABIP in the second half was 215. He got really lucky in the second half. I watched a lot of his games. He had that stretch where he gave like one earned run or fewer in a whole bunch of games, and every game it felt like just kind of catching some breaks. The ADP's at pick 41. That's middle to end of the third round in a 15-teamer. I think I'm out at the price this year. What say you?
I'm with you on that. I didn't have him last year, and I feel like I kind of regret it. But like you said, the second half, one or two fewer starts against the each AL Central foe that he was able to feast on last year. He goes right after Carlos Rodon, who I also have some concerns about, but a little bit before McClanahan.
It seems like everybody loves Carlos Rodon.
It's the new contract thing.
Okay.
And the health history too, a little bit there. And he's going from San Francisco to New York. That's a difference, right?
It is, although lefty in New York is better than a righty in New York.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. 100%. I'd take Verlander before Cease. McClanahan versus Cease is a tough call because I think I think McClanahan also has health concerns.
Yeah.
But I take Scherzer before Cease also. That's a pretty, Wheeler versus Cease is closer for me. Is a close call for me. I'm not sure. Point is, there's others I take, or I'd take a closer, or I'd take a hitter there before I take Cease. I'm probably not going to get Cease unless he's like end of the 4th round in a 15-team league. In a 12-team league, maybe I'm more inclined to take a chance. But then again, I might also be more inclined to take another hitter there too.
Right. And you did listen to a bunch of pitchers, obviously a lot of hitters there. If those are guys you prefer, then it's pretty clear that Cease will not be on your team unless something weird or freaky happens in a draft. But the guy that you didn't mention right next to Zach Wheeler at ADP is Shane Bieber. His ADP is about 57. So we're talking like end of the 4th round in a 15-teamer. Huge 2022. After he only threw 96 innings in 2021, had a really good 2022, 2.88 ERA, 1.04 WHIP. The K rate dropped, and the issue with him is it's kind of dropping every year. Swinging strike rate dropped 3 straight years. Did drop his walk rate, so that really helped him a lot. But the velocity is the issue here. At some point, it's going to have to bite him. He's down to 91.3 last year. Velocity dropped about 1.5 miles. Are you worried about that? Do you think he just kind of knows how to pitch? Do you go with the 2022 stats? Where do you fall on Bieber? Because he's a guy that I've having trouble kind of placing in my rankings at the moment.
I am too. My projections like him better than my gut feeling likes him.
All right.
Now, I just did a little bit of tweaking on him to lessen him a little bit there, but I think the Guardians are going to be good, so I think wins will be okay. Even though they lose some AL Central games, I still think they're going to be a good team. I think this is a good young core. I think they're going to add. I think the young hitters are going to start making some good moves here. He's one of like 8 starting pitchers with a K- walk percentage over 20%. I mean, that's a good number.
Yeah.
The velocity decline hurts, but the lack of walks kind of make up for that a little bit there. I think I'll have some. I'll have him in some places. I don't think it's one of those where I'm going to reach for him. But again, give me Cease versus Bieber. I'm probably taking Bieber.
You brought up wins. I wanted to ask you, do you think that, I know we've always said, predicting wins is tough. Do you think it's a little bit different now that we can not maybe predict the teams that will get pitchers that will get wins, but we can predict the pitchers on teams that will not get wins just based on usage and, guys not letting guys go through the 3rd time through the order. Like there's teams that philosophies now are different. It's just hard for guys to get wins on those teams.
100% I do. And the same thing applies with Saves. Like I won't have a whole lot of Alexis Diaz, no matter how good of a pitcher I think he is, because it's the Reds and management usage and, team strength applies. Same thing applies with starting pitchers. Yeah. 100%. I mean, I think you have to decline, Reds, Pirates, A's, Nationals. There's certain teams aren't going to be good, and you have to.
Even teams that aren't, it's not necessarily like you just look at someone like the Rays. Like that's a tough squad because the way they manage pitchers, they'll be good. They always are good. They always find a way to win games, but starting pitcher wins for them matter because they're tough to get the way they throw their guys.
Yeah, I mean, we can look ahead in the future to our outline and see Tyler Glasnow on the list of guys to discuss, and of course they're going to be managing his workload. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So. Yeah, you got to at least think about that there. And the thing is, projecting wins is kind of a fool's errand, but we got to do it because it's a stat that we use. Or at least we have to, obviously we're not getting the exact number right. It is nice. It's a good thing to get, but more important to get the kind of framework, for sure. And try to guess that a little bit right. And just give yourself the best chances there because, it's hard to get that part right.
So some more stars I wanted to ask you about, but first a note from our sponsors at Underdog. The fantasy baseball season is underway, and there's no better place to play than Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy baseball. Right now, Underdog has MLB best ball tournaments live, including the Dinger, which has $500,000 in total prizes. In best ball, all you're doing is join a contest, draft your team, and that's it. There's no waivers, no trades, and no in-season management. Draft 20 rounds of players and get the best cumulative scores in your starting lineup. You start 3 pitchers, 3 infielders, 3 outfielders, and 1 flex each week of the regular season. Getting started is simple. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, sign up with the promo code RWMLB. Not only Underdog double your initial deposit to $100, but you'll also get 6 months of our RotoWire subscription all for free. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code RWMLB. Draft your $100,000 Dinger team today. So right behind Shane Bieber is someone that's near and dear to your heart, Jeff. Luis Castillo, ADP is kind of in the same spot. Ended the fourth round of 50 team, about 59. Obviously, he had the sweet park switch going from Cincinnati to Seattle. Good 2022, 2.99 ERA, 1.08 WHIP, and 150 innings. He bumped his K rate back up. 2021 was rough for him in a lot of ways. Walk rate dropped back down a couple percentage points. So that was good too, down to 7.3%. Where are you on Luis Castillo? Look at the StatCast page. It's good, not great. His four-seam fastball was way better in 2022. That was a pitch that he struggled with in 2020, was really effective in 2022. How are you on Luis Castillo in Seattle?
Okay. WHIP is still not great. And granted, he was better last year, and maybe if he can repeat the same runners on base thing that he did last year, then he's worth that price. However, if you look at the two previous years, 123 and 136 WHIPs, 2021 is a thing that happened.
Yeah. I was there for it. Trust me, I know.
Yeah. But he's actually going at a more reasonable price now, end of the fourth round, beginning of the fifth, as opposed to the third round where he was going in that 2021 season and 2020 before that. Yeah, I've only got him for 169 innings, so that kind of knocks him down a little bit in terms of his projected value if you spit out an algorithm, basically a ranking system, and a 120 WHIP. But if he's at a 110 or lower WHIP, then he's worth that price.
So in this range, we have a lot of names. We talked about Bieber. We talked about Castillo. We got Christian Javier and everything. We talked about him a little bit last week. Kind of in this range too, maybe a little bit higher is Julio Urias in Los Angeles. Obviously a huge 2022. WHIP was under 1. ERA was 2.16. But there's some concern with Urias in the fantasy community just based on the strikeout rate. It dropped to 24.1% last year, dropped 2% there. Swing strike rate's only 11.1%. Another number people cite when they don't like Urias. It's interesting because we always talk about strikeouts, and obviously very important in fantasy. The top guys are the ones that get your strikeouts. It's hard to find. There are no breakout strikeout guys. Rob Silver was on the RotoWire podcast with James Anderson earlier last week and talked about how I think it was all of 24 pitchers who had a strikeout rate over 26%. Steamer or whatever it was, I figure you stay Steamer the bat, had all of them at 24% or higher in the preseason projection. So there are no random breakouts that you get with offense. I think Merrill Kelly was the only guy that broke into the top 48 of guys that weren't expected to be pretty good strikeout guys. So strikeouts are hard to find. You've got to do it your early guys. So Urias hurts a little bit there, but you look at Urias' hard contact. Every year he manages to avoid that exceptionally well. He was a 28.6% hard hit guy in 2020, really known number. 30.3% in 2021, 30.2% last year. How much do you play into that? At some point, you get some outliers with those, but it's year after year after year, he's obviously doing something to avoid hard contact, right?
Yeah, talk to me when he leaves the Dodgers. Otherwise, I'm not that concerned.
Yeah. Fair point.
This is a guy we were taking second, mid to late second round, early third round in main event drafts last year. He turned around and put in a season where, what did he have? A 2.16 ERA, a 0.96 WHIP, 17 wins. Okay, the strikeouts are lower. Yes, okay. But that's not the be all end all. Okay. It's not like he killed you in strikeouts. It's not like he threw 110. This is not Kyle Hendricks here.
Yeah.
I love him at this price.
I do too. I kind of, when I started this, I'm like, I wonder what, but the price, like you said, the price dropped after a great year. It's a strikeout, it's a swinging strike rate, but man, I just think he knows how to pitch. I think he knows how to avoid hard contact. And like you said, the strikeouts, won't be huge, but you're still going to get a bunch. He's still on a great team. Man, you give him me in the middle of the fourth round. I'm there every day for it.
Yeah, and I will do the Urias Yu Darvish combo at their respective prices till the cows come home. Give me more. I will do that all the time. Because then it allows me to get a closer and it allows me to get good hitters otherwise at those prices.
Jarvis' ADP is mid 80s. Wow.
Yeah. Why? Again, I'll tell you why. It's because the strikeouts are trending downward. And I know the logic behind that is I understand. I get it. There is a chance of cratering. And it could be a sign, and maybe I'm not respecting that enough. I will grant that as a possibility. And maybe at some point in time, I'll care to revisit my thoughts, but
his contract extension is pretty wild.
6 more years,
till
right?
age 42.
Yeah, I mean, he's learned new tricks. He's not walking guys anymore.
And you look at
Darvish is now what we're talking about.
Yeah, Darvish. You talk about Darvish's whip, 1.10, 0.96, 1.09, 0.95 last 4 years. Like
is that something you'd be interested in?
That is damn good. I know he has some years with the ERA pops and he has some home run issues. I do fully get that, but yeah,
you think the Padres are going to win some games this year?
Exactly. But you talk about the Dodgers winning a game, the Padres are going to be right there with them. In that same range with Darvish, a little bit earlier is Tyler Glasnow. ADP over the last 3 weeks in DCs is 81. What the heck do you do with this? Because the guy is obviously awesome. You look at, I think it was Eno Sarris talking about he has like the top stuff plus that metric he uses anybody in baseball. I mean, the guy is obviously nasty when he pitches, but he's thrown over 90 innings one time. And that was 111 innings in 2011, one time. And he's going to pick 81. Like, you need 100 and something innings from that for this price to work at all. What do you project him to throw? How many? What's the most innings he throws? Like 120? Like, I don't know.
I got him for 139, and that's very aggressive.
All right.
That's aggressive. It is very aggressive, but is 139 enough?
I got that. I got that reference, by the way.
Thank you.
He threw 6 innings last year.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that.
So 139, like that's like everything works out pretty darn well. Like that's everything working out as well as it can, right?
Yeah, it is. And like I said, I don't even, it's not like I said, oh, I got to go get Tyler Glasnow. I don't have him in any league so far. I could see it. I could definitely see it. But no.
That was our friend Justin Mason here on the screen. Said just say no to Glasnow.
Yeah.
I love the guy as a pitcher. I just think I'm going to almost every time I'm going to get people around him in the same range that I'm just going to prefer and feel better saying their name out loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the guy you mentioned, Darvish, like he goes after Glasnow. I'd take Darvish every day in that case.
Yeah. I take Darvish over Glasnow too. I take Glasnow over Glass Joe though. So there's that.
I got that reference too. That's 2 in a row that I got.
I know.
Wow. Piston Honda.
I'm either very boring, lucid, or somewhere in between. I don't know what, but
or you're not dropping
obscure enough references.
You're not dropping references from like 1973 like you normally do.
Yeah, or I could drag Nick Whalen in here, and who's never even seen Caddyshack, and or any other movie that was but he's not a movie guy. But anyhow, I'm dragging my radio co-host on a fantasy baseball podcast that he won't be listening to.
And wasn't born then, right?
No, he was not.
Speaking of guys who weren't born when Caddyshack came out, George Kirby in Seattle is he's
people
25.
have not been in my kitchen. Yes,
3 references in a row. Got all 3. I am on fire tonight. Nice.
Yeah.
George Kirby, what do you like here? This is a guy that, as a rookie, like elite walk rate. We're talking
George Kirby.
4.1% walk rate is crazy. He had that stretch where he like walked 1 or fewer guys and like a whole bunch of number of games in a row. It was a great stretch. Really good debut last year. 130 innings, 3.39, 1.21 ERA. Even with those numbers, the BABIP was high. It was 331, so maybe that improves a little bit too. StatCast page is kind of blah. It's except for the walk rate, which is obviously really elite. But you look at another guy that avoided hard contact, exit velo, hard hit rate, and barrel percentage all below 50th percentile. I guess he wasn't great there either. So he's kind of middle of the road there. The walk rate's great. Are you convinced in everything else?
Yeah, I think he's a really good pitcher, and I don't think you necessarily can project a massive leap from him. But he's the type of pitcher who could have a massive leap. Maybe you get concerned about the number of innings. I only have him for 143. He went through 130 last year. But he's the type of guy that he could really take a big step up. The Mariners could take a big step up, although I think the AL West is tougher than ever. There's 4 good teams now, but
you're just taking shots at me.
No, I'm not trying to, dude. I'm not trying to. But I think the Angels legitimately improved, and I think the Rangers legitimately improved. Yeah. And the Astros are still the Astros. So I think that part will be tough. But they don't play as many games against those teams, so it's okay. Yeah. They get to play more teams against the Tigers and the White Sox. And I am including the White Sox in that malaise because I think that they did not improve. And I think that I think Kirby's I think he's got the foundations of being an ace. And I think there's a chance of a big leap here.
Yeah, I misspoke. The barrel rate actually was low last year. It was 22nd percentile. That was a little lower than I thought. But I think that's a function of him being in the zone so much. Guys probably feel pretty comfortable. They're going to get pitches to hit. But yeah, well, he was one of those guys that passed the eye test for me. When I watched him, I literally liked what I saw. I love guys that don't walk people. And, he's going to get 24.5% strikeout rate. So it's not like he doesn't strike guys out at all. And, that was his first time through. His numbers in the minors, K rate numbers were really high. So he projects pretty well coming forward here. Moving back a little bit, Logan Webb, ADP is about 113 last 3 weeks in Draft Champions. Had a nice follow-up season last year. Obviously, he had that playoff stretch where he was really good for the Giants in the playoffs in 2020. He threw a really good game against the Dodgers. But 2.9, 1.16 last year, 192 innings, really nice follow-up. But the K rate is an issue here. It crashed pretty hard. It went from 26.5% to 20.7%. So he fell off the table there. Still a huge ground ball guy, though, 57% ground ball rate. So that helps you there. Hopefully it wins the big innings. But swing strike rate fell. I mentioned the K rate fell. Where are you on Logan Webb? This doesn't seem like a really expensive price for him right now.
Yeah, I feel like he's priced adequately.
Okay.
Enough that, sure, if I need a starter there, I take him. I don't think I'm going to make a point of structuring my drafts to make sure I get him. He might not even be my preference in that range, but he's definitely one where okay, sure, I could see myself taking him if my other targets in that area went by. I'm trying to see, if I don't get George Kirby, for instance, I'll take, and I think I would take Logan Gilbert also before Webb, and Nestor Cortez before Webb, but it would be close. I'd be one where I'd have to think about it.
The velo dropped. It's down to 91.9. That's concern there. The whiff rate and his slider fell really hard. It was 47% in 2021, 31% last year. And the problem with that is if that slider is not elite, his fastball gets hit. His fastball is a 450 slug against, 327 batting average against, only a 13% whiff rate. So he's not really he's not making hay on the fastball. That slider has to be better. If it's the same as it was 2022, I think his ERA is going up. So I like him, but maybe not as much as I did than when I dug in a little deeper.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. A guy who I like more than I thought I would, kind of flipping on the Logan Webb thing here, actually is Kyle Wright. ADP is 125, so that's what is that? The start of the 9th round in a 15-teamer. Obviously, the huge breakout in 2022. We talked about him a lot last year. I had him on my main event team. It worked out well. 21 wins, led the league there. 3.19, 1.16 in the ratios in 180 innings. Obviously, it was huge for anybody that got him because you got him really late. But you look at him, and he changed who he is. He threw a lot more curveballs, and curveball was really good. He threw it 34% of the time, 33% whiff rate on that pitch. Fastball velocity jumped. He was a different pitcher last year. It jumped from 93.2 to 94.7. Hard hit rate was a bit high, but he's a big ground ball guy too. We talked about Logan Webb, pretty much same ground ball rate for Wright. I just think that he had struggles when he first came up in the past. I think he's a fully different pitcher. As I dove in a little bit deeper on Wright, I really liked what I saw. I think that the walk rate fell big time from his other kind of cups of coffee in the majors. I know some people hate that term, but the other thing I like is that you look at that, and that number is more in line with the minor league numbers. I think the other numbers that he had in the majors previously were kind of outliers and small samples and stuff.
Sure.
I think Kyle Wright is really solid in this range. As someone that if he's there at the 8-9 turn, I'm pretty much all in here.
I mean, the K percentage jumped a ton while the walk rate dropped. Right, the walk percentage dropped a ton. I mean, that's the perfect combo.
Yeah.
His fastball velocity went up from the previous year, at least at the major league level. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like here. Was a little lucky in terms of BABIP, but he doesn't generate a ton of hard contact, so that makes sense. I like it a lot. I thought I'm with you. I didn't think I'd like him a ton.
Me too.
I think part of that is I'm not going to get fooled by those 21 wins. Okay, I'm not going to be the sucker in this draft. Okay, so he gets 15, he gets 13, fine. I mean, at that price, 13.
But by the way, the Braves are going to be really damn good again. So, I mean, it's if he's good, that he'll get wins. It won't be 21. You're right. But I think that he's still a guy that you can project for a good amount of wins. I really like the price here. I think he's someone that will end up on my team again if this ADP stays where it is.
Yeah, I think so too.
Two other starting pitchers I want to run by you in the top 150. Both their names have actually come up already in this podcast, believe it or not. The first is we talked Hunter Green last week, so I'm gonna skip that one. But Nick Lodolo in Cincinnati, ADP is about mid 120s in the DCs. 103.1 innings in his debut. He had a 3.66 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. It's a little high on the WHIP there. But he's a huge strikeout guy, about almost 30% strikeout rate. The walks are a little high. He was about almost 9% in the walk rate. Swing strike rate's good, though, over 12%. He had a little bit of home run issue, but, he plays in Cincinnati, so that's going to happen. I guess my question for you is he threw 115 innings last year if you look at the minor leagues
Right.
and the majors combined. Do you think that what do you think his innings are going to look like? What do you think in terms of what we're looking at for Lodolo in 2023?
I think I might be a little high on him at 154. I think I'm going to have to ratchet that down a little bit, but I think they find a way to, workload manage him a little bit. So I have him at like 30 starts, and they probably will make like 27 or so. But I like him, but of course, and I like him better than Hunter Green. I think he's
okay.
I think Hunter Green is like, everybody loves 100-mile-an-hour fastball and all of them. And I do too. And I love Hunter Green, but I think Lodolo has almost as high a ceiling. I think they both have health concerns, and I think that they both have the crappy team issue there. So it's going to be a struggle to get to 10 wins, and no matter how good he is.
Lodolo's curveball is awesome, by the way.
It is.
I know you already know that because you watch a lot of Reds games, but man, he throws it 30% of the time last year, 46% whiff rate on that pitch, X-slug on that pitch of 207, which is just an absurd number for a pitch he throws that often.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's he's fun, and like we were talking before, the Reds, 40% of the time, every 2 out of 5 days, you got someone fun thrown out there. Last guy I want to ask you about is the one we talked about. We're talking about the A's and Marlins. Jesus Luzardo, ADP's just inside the top 150. Through 100 innings last year, 3.32 ERA, 1.04 WHIP. You were talking about Lodolo's curveball. Luzardo had 2 pitches last year with a whiff rate over 40%. Great numbers. Curve was 41.3%. Changeup was like 45% the whiff rate. 2 really elite pitches there to go behind his fastball. The walks are a touch high, same number as Lodolo at 8.8%, but strikeout was even higher than Lodolo's. He was 30% exactly. Someone, again, that I didn't think I was going to be in on at the new price here, but, man, I look at Luzardo, and I think that the how long we waited, I think we finally have seen him arrive. I think that 2022 got me back in on Luzardo.
Me too. I think anybody who bought low in keeper or dynasty leagues is thanking themselves for that. And that's why we should be interested in what the Marlins do with AJ Puck, of course, too, because you got to give the Marlins credit. They I don't know if they fixed him, but they got him on the right track. And because I don't know if it was just, I think it fixed is about right, actually.
I actually think I was going to say, if you didn't do correct, I think fix is kind of probably the right term for it.
Yeah. Sure. So I mean, there's always a little risk inherent. And again, same issue with the Reds, maybe not as acute, but wins are going to be hard to come by. Just the Marlins didn't really do a lot to improve their offense. I know they traded for Arias, but I think it's still a pretty bad lineup.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. At that price though, 10th round, I think he's someone that will give you pretty good ratios and give you a lot of strikeouts. The innings will be a concern. He's never thrown more than 100.1 innings in the major league. So you're probably looking at 130 innings. But as we get deeper down in here, we realize how valuable those early guys are, because there just aren't a lot of starters to get deep in here that are good and going to throw more than 135, 140 innings.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's talk about some hitters. Let's flip the script here and let's go deeper in the draft. But first, a note from our sponsors at Fantrax. Fantrax is the most customizable fantasy platform in the industry, offering the greatest fantasy experience for all kinds of fantasy leagues, whether it be dynasty, keeper, redraft, or best ball leagues. Are you coming from another service? Fantrax makes it easy as they can import any of your current leagues and customize as you need. Fantrax offers the most in-depth player pool in the industry, including minor league players. If you need a customizable commission service for your fantasy league, Fantrax offers more customization than any other platform. You can change around scoring system, fab, head-to-head scheduling, various category management if you want, different categories, or 6x6, 7x7, whatever it may be. Fantrax offers custom solutions for all that and more, and it's all free. Sign up for free today. Enter to win an official MLB signed jersey from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Simply go to fantrax.com/RotoWire and sign up today. That's Fantrax, Fantrax.com/RotoWire. Fantrax, the home for fantasy sports. So, Jeff, before we jump out of here, I want to talk some hitters. I love talking about hitters after late in the draft. These are where you get guys that are going to help your team. After I'm going to go after pick 250, just picking a round number. First guy I wanted to ask you about, Brendan Rodgers in Colorado, someone that we've kind of been waiting on forever. And, as soon as Rodgers gets called up or people have been drafting him. And last year
Palooza. Yeah, he was one of those guys.
He was a Fabapalooza guy. That's right. He was kind of the definition of blah last year. 581 plate appearances. So he played a lot. The issue before was like he just kept getting hurt. Once he gets healthy, we're good. Obviously plays in cores, hit 266. He has no speed. He's never stolen a base in the major league. So if you're worried about that, he's played 271 games with that one. Maybe the new rules help him a little bit, but no speed here. He had 13 home runs, 63 RBI. He's still a thing. He's going to pick at 262. So that's like whatever, like the 16, 17 rounds, somewhere in there. Do you find yourself being intrigued at all by Brendan Rodgers at this price?
If he were in any other ballpark in baseball, would we be talking about him at this price?
So that would have been my answer. And then I looked, and he actually hit the ball really hard last year. He was 69th percentile in exit velo, 83rd in max EV, 80th in hard hit rate. I was surprised by that because the home runs aren't there. He just hits so many ground balls, but he's like one flip away from being pretty good. But I don't know if that flip's ever come. He's never had over a 30% fly ball rate. So it's just
that's the thing that gets
without the speed, it just caps it so much. But he's one fix away. But we've got 1,100 plate appearances of showing that he can't hit fly balls. So I kind of got intrigued. I looked at the fly ball rate and how consistently poor it's been. I don't know if I can get there either.
I think I'd feel differently if his hitting coach wasn't Eric Hosmer, but
that's good. I like that.
Thank you.
Where did Hosmer end up now? Chicago? No.
Chicago, yeah.
Chicago, okay.
Because they couldn't stand the idea of Matt Mervis being right, so they put three guys in front of him.
That's right. It was the Matt Mervis. I do remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the hard hit data is good, but like you said, no loft, no speed. I mean, none.
Yeah.
That's the thing that what does he do? That's special. I want him to have some upside.
I do too.
He has it. I'm not going to say he has no upside. Rick Porcello's on line 3 yelling at me to remember it. The year I said he had no upside and he won the Cy Young. So I won't say that, but there's got to be some sizzle here. And there's not a lot of sizzle right now.
For a guy who is a super high prospect, there is very little sizzle. I tried to get there, and I looked at the hard cut. I tried to get there, and he doesn't loft the ball. It's tough to get there, even playing in Colorado.
Sometimes you just have to get guys on the basis that they're getting playing time, and hope is a good thing, Ray, but it's not a plan. But
and he could be a guy there that price. Maybe you just need that spot, you need at bats, but it's hard to get super excited about it.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the other second baseman around him, though. Let's do this comparison.
Please do.
DJ LeMahieu, or I know a famous Scott Jenstad fade, or Brendan Rodgers. Who do you got?
I think I'm going to take Brendan Rodgers. But boy, I don't feel great about doing any of it.
Colton Wong or Brendan Rodgers? Now in Seattle.
I think I'm taking Brendan Rodgers. Goodness, maybe I'm talking myself into Brendan Rodgers. That's
two guys directly above him on their second baseman in the recent NFBC ADP. Luis Urias qualifies second, third, and short versus Brendan Rodgers.
We're probably getting in the right range now, but Urias doesn't have a lot of sizzle himself either. I'm probably taking Brendan Rodgers. Good Lord, this is a rough batch.
Yeah, now we're almost 20 points of ADP.
I'm definitely taking Segura and Gavin Lux, who are the next two guys are going to ask about.
All right, But that's also now almost 30 picks ahead of him too.
I'm just not convinced how much DJ LeMahieu is going to play.
It sounds to me like you almost want to address this position earlier or later.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing to do. Finding pockets of value is good, but finding pockets of non-value is also good, at least in your mind.
I see a guy after him you might be interested because I know he's on our outline. And that's Nick Gordon.
Yeah, let's talk about Nick Gordon because Nick Gordon's another person that I was a little surprised by how hard he hits the ball. I was a little surprised by his hard contact. He is Gordon last year had 443 plate appearances at 272 with 9 home runs and 6 steals. Hard hit rate was 44.3%. Good number there. Does not walk at all. You're not going to get OBP league out of him. But I guess the question one is, will Nick Gordon play? And I know your joke will be, well, yeah, as soon as Byron Buxton or Carlos Correa gets hurt, sure, he'll play. But
no, he's going to play before that. He's going to play second base.
You think he's going to play second base?
Yes, I do.
Because I looked at, I just picked roster resources one source. They had him DHing, so I wasn't DHing and hitting ninth, which is suddenly that excites you a little bit less. They had had Jorge Polanco at second base.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Polanco. Never mind.
I knew there was someone that was there. I had to think about who it was, and then you think Jose Moreno is probably going to play third, and then center field is Buxton, and they've got I guess you got Joey Gallo, gross, Max Kepler out there. But you got Trevor Larnach, Michael A. Taylor.
I think Kepler is on the outs with them a little bit there.
Seems that way, right?
At the very least, I think he's a platoon guy, but Gordon bats lefty, so that doesn't really help him.
Yeah.
I misspoke, actually. The other option is first base. Alex Kirilloff is coming off something, so they could move some things around where, like, when Kirilloff's out, Miranda goes to first, and Gordon could play some third.
There's no way Kirilloff will miss time. That's crazy talk.
No, I know, impossible.
It's a shame because I like him as a hitter, and I just don't think I'm not sure he can ever get healthy.
The Twins are very curious because they have like 3 guys that can play center field, possibly 4. Most teams struggle to have one. They have Buxton, they have Royce Lewis whenever he gets healthy again. Yep. They traded for Michael Taylor, and Nick Gordon could also play center. So that's an overflow of riches. But you look at the guys starting from them. They have Joey Gallo and Max Kepler, Trevor Larnach. These are all guys that are projected to start right now. None of them strike me as like rock solid in terms of playing time.
I like the offseason note on Kirilloff. He's able to take full swings. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I just that risk seems like it's just never going away.
I think Nick Gordon and Kyle Farmer both play more than people realize.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that, especially with the Twins team. But he's an interesting guy. I mean, I don't know where I think the upside is probably like just plays a lot and hits the ball pretty hard and gives you some good batting average, which is hard to find later in drafts. So I think that probably works there. But
I think he's going to run too.
Yeah, I was surprised how little he ran last year because I expected. I think when we talked about him last week, we were talking about Fab and picking guys up. I mean, he was someone that stole a bunch of bases in the minors, and he only stole 6 last year in 43 plate appearances. But he's one of those guys that maybe the new rules help him a little bit. Maybe he's more comfortable. That was his first real stretch of playing time. Maybe he can just kind of get into it a little more.
I got to dig into the tendencies a little bit more because I don't think Minnesota was like a running team. I think they put the governor switch on Buxton at one point. I always thought that was kind of injury related, but maybe they don't like to run as much either. And so that might be something where I might temper my enthusiasm just a little bit.
So you're going to be shocked when I tell you, not only do they not like to run very much, they were dead last in baseball last year in stolen bases.
I guess I'm not shocked, but looking at that roster, are you surprised?
38.
Oh, that's pretty low. That is pretty low.
Did Buxton only had 6 steals last year?
Yeah, he stole like 5 early, and then he got hurt against Boston, or maybe it was 4 early or something like that. He got hurt on that slide, and he went like a solid 2 months without a stolen base after that.
He led the Twins in stolen bases.
Yeah,
with 6. That's incredible. Him and Nick Gordon each had 6.
Well, we know Correa doesn't run.
Yeah,
we know. I mean, look, Max Kepler is not a thief.
Polanco doesn't run.
Yeah, they don't have. Either they don't have the roster, and I think maybe Baldelli is from fruit of the Rays tree, and I think they were one of the teams first to suggest that we're going to pay. If you don't have the guys to run, we're not going to run. I mean, they ran a lot with Crawford and all that back in the day. I think that you have to have the right players, and if you're not successful at a 75% rate, they're just not going to let you go.
Stealing 38 as team is more than just not having the exact players. That's a team philosophy, and there has to be.
I think
somewhere. So. Yeah. Some other hitters here before we jump out of here. Another guy that's a former Red here. Jesse Winker was horrible last year. It was a rough year, and you and I have liked Jesse Winker for many years. He's been obviously he's a guy that hit the ball really hard. That all went away last year in Seattle. I know people were worried about the park, but this is more than park. I mean, he had his hard hit rate dropped 12% last year. Bell rate fell almost in half from 11% to 7.5%. The Ks were up a little bit. Walks were huge. He had a 15% walk rate last year. So he got on base, when he wasn't getting out, he got on base through some walks, but hit 219, 14 home runs. Moves out of Seattle. I think that was an absolute must for him. Moves to Milwaukee. Pretty good place to hit. His ADP is about 260, 265, somewhere in there. What the heck does one do with Jesse Winker coming off the brutal 2022?
I think Mariners fans to Winker were like that guy in Tombstone. He's like, well, bye. They hate Winker there. The work ethic
I don't know. Yeah, it's
was
weird.
Really,
right?
He was dragged for his lack of work ethic, big time.
Was that an issue in Cincinnati at all?
I think maybe a little bit as a prospect. I think there were some. I don't know if it was work ethic necessarily, but it was definitely like he didn't charm the manager. I mean, sometimes it cost him playing time. We're like, why isn't he playing more? Well, this sort of stuff kind of leaks out every once in a while. Like, okay, maybe that's why. So maybe this will be kind of a kick in the butt that he needs. I don't know. Getting him in Milwaukee is definitely a better place for him to hit than Seattle, though, too.
For sure. I think I'm in at this price. I think that it picked 260. I think I'm willing to maybe wash out 2022 and take a shot here. Just when you look at 2020, 2021, hard hit rate was really high, barrel rate in the double digits. I just think that there's a really good hitter in here that I have a hard time believing at age 29 just kind of went away. I think 22 was a lost season across the board for him and the Mariners with Winker.
Yeah, but he's similar to Rogers. Is that you're not going to get any stolen bases here.
No.
So if you're taking Winker here at a position where you're hoping to get some stolen bases from, you better have addressed him earlier.
For sure. I agree there. But I think the home run ceiling on Winker is significantly higher than Rogers. And I think I like the batting average more, although Rogers plays in Coors Field. But I just think that I think I like Winker. I think the Winker ceiling's higher. I think that Rogers, the fly ball rate's concerning. At least Winker does hit some loft in his balls.
Yeah, I can see that.
A guy who is, you have to know the rules here. Shea Langoliers is UT only to start the season. That'll go away pretty quick. But you obviously need to get a third catcher if you take Langoliers. But Langoliers is going to be the ace catcher. ADP is about pick 277. So he's getting drafted. People realize he's going to be a catcher. But he's really good in AAA last year with the A's. They obviously traded for him in the Matt Olson trade. He had 19 home runs and 400 plate appearances in the minors. And they came up in the majors and just swung and missed a freaking ton. 21.1% swing strike rate. The barrels were still pretty good. 9.9%. That's pretty good, but just the swing and miss is huge. 35% strikeout rate. That obviously will be a huge disaster if it happens again. But I think that he was such a better hitter in the minors. I think maybe that's a first time up kind of thing. Where are you at with Langoliers this price? About 280, knowing that if you take him, you got to take a round 30 catcher for the first couple of weeks.
I don't like that aspect of it there because then what are you going to like? Is it just a player you're drafting to cut?
You're drafting, whatever is the 31st best catcher, which is going to be awful. But is it five games eligibility or 10 games eligibility? I always forget how to do it.
In the NFBC, it's 10.
I know we dropped to like 8 for a while during COVID.
2010. It's okay, 2010, in a normal season, that's like the standard roto rule is 20 and 10.
Yeah, I knew we were at 10 for a long time, and then COVID, it dropped to like 7 or 8, but I think it must be back to 10, right?
Right. That was just because we had the shortened season.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like that, but we do all kinds of crazy things in the end game. When we have a Japan game, we're drafting guys and all that just to capture wins. Some people more than others.
Hashtag Rogue Drafter.
Yes.
Shout out.
Yes, exactly. But
I can't. Was it Tom Wilhelmsen? Was I think I got the win in Japan that year?
Good pull.
Thank you.
But that was like the first Japan setting.
Yeah, that was The A's have played 3 times over there, I think.
Yeah, well, hey, and they need to play in front of fans at some point in time.
You can't give up A's home games though. That's tough.
No. At one point that did matter.
Yes, it did. Not anymore.
Yeah. I think. But I do think Langoliers. I mean, he has the power upside, and when you're getting that second catcher, you're looking to just do something. Hit for average, hit for power, do something. Don't just be blah. Just do contribute some way. And I could see Langoliers being a guy that could hit 15 to 20 homers.
I think he's going to hit 15, 20 homers. I think the power is definitely there. I think the batting average is going to be a risk. We're going to have to see a change in the K rate. He can't strike out 35%. It'll be a mess. The lineup's going to be terrible. I think we're looking at, I even go like 18 to 24 home runs somewhere there. Maybe go a little higher than your range, but I think the power is going to be there. And in round, whatever that is, 19, 20, you got to be catcher eligible. I realize it's going to be 2 weeks, but I think it's going to work at that price of catcher.
Yeah. Exactly. But just be aware that, you have to do that.
You do have to do that. A couple of names here before we jump out here. I wanted to ask you about Jared Kelnick is a fascinating name. ADP is about over 300, 312. The shine is fully off this star now. He was horrible last year in the majors. He hit 141. There is no way around the fact he was just flat out terrible. He was pretty good in the minors, though. In AAA, hit 295, 18 home runs, 9 stolen bases, just under 400 plate appearances. K rate was horrendous in the majors. It was 34%. It was only 21% in the minors. Barrel rate in majors was 13.5%. So he didn't actually make contact. He hit the ball hard. What do you think Seattle's plans for Kelnick are? Do you think it's your job? Do you think he has a runway or a leash at all? And are you willing to buy back in at this price after the horrendous last couple of years?
No, probably not. I really need him to be like almost a reserve pick before I draft him. I guess I could get there in a 12. I think I'd have a hard time in the 15, where it's so much harder to find someone a replacement there if he's not playing well. And like, how long do I hold on to him if he gets off to a terrible start? You have to go through that question.
I think if it's a terrible start, you just drop him because I think Seattle's going to send him back down or do something. Because I don't think his leash is very long.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I only have him projected for like 60 games, I think. There is some pitch recognition improvement before he got hurt in September, but it's also against September pitchers too. I mean, I could go more granular, I suppose, and look at every single pitcher he faced, but
I guess, but he still hit 180 in September.
Yeah. So
I know he had a couple big home runs, and people were starting to freak out. I think this is the price where I could get back in if I'm kind of whoever I need. We're in the 21st round. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a shot here. And the thought is I could drop him in a month if I need to. I'm going to drop more than half the guys in this range anyway.
But if he has a good 2 weeks in spring, you're not going to get him at this price.
That's a fair point too, because he'll shoot up. You're right. If he does well in spring, it'll probably get to a price where I'm not willing to do it. This is probably the price where I'd do it. But if he was in the 250s, 260s, I'm not doing it there.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give him a little bit more playing time, and maybe a little improvement on the rate sense, but I don't know. I just don't. I mean, this is they say religion is faith without evidence. This is pretty much that. You got to get religion to draft him.
I think that's a good way to put it. You kind of just jump at the fact that he was a huge prospect. He did something right. And the minor leagues were pretty good last year. Maybe, one of those guys that, needs a couple call-ups to get going. But we talked earlier about lack of sizzle with big prospect names. Dylan Carlson falls into that range right here. ADP's 330. I can't believe how blah his year was last year. He had
I can believe it. I lived it. Oh,
did you? He had 488 plate appearances last year. That was more than I thought he had. He had 8 home runs and 5 stolen bases. Hard hit rate was 27%. It's down in the Tony Kemp and other rabbit range, except Carlson doesn't steal. He had 5 steals last year. OBP was 316. Barrel rate was under 5%. The K rate dropped a lot, so I guess that's good. But man, there's nothing here for a guy that was a really highly touted prospect 2 years ago.
Right. My most rostered player last year. So follow me at Jeff_Erickson.
I loved him 2 years ago. I think I jumped in fully on him in the COVID year, and that it wasn't good then either. And I think I was bad. It's just I think it was 2021. I was big in on him. That's right. It was right after the COVID year, and he was okay that year. He had 18 home runs, but still had 266 with 2 stolen bases. I'm surprised there's no speed. I'm surprised the power fell off last year, but there's nothing really to get behind here. When you have a 27% hard hit rate and that many at bats, you're just not hitting the ball hard. And I have to think his leash is as maybe not as short as Kelnick's, but in that range. There's no way they're going to keep running him out there for a whole nother year if he's not good, right?
I don't even know if he starts the year as a starter. I mean, they have options now.
They do.
And I think I just bumped up Brennan Donovan's playing time a little bit there. That is one point of view there.
Do they have somebody that can play center? I guess can Tyler O'Neill play center field?
I mean, sure. I think
or Newbar, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it's got to be Tyler O'Neill who would do it. I think so, but I think you look at their farm system. They've got some other guys that are infielder types that could move guys around. I think, center field is the question mark there. Can they find anyone that plays adequate defense in center field for an extended period of time? Not just like a game here and there, but like a full-time thing. But
can Jordan Walker come play center field?
I think he's going to play a lot of third. pretty quickly.
Yeah, the center field is the issue there. But man, I was like looking at Carlson, like this ADP is really low, and I'm surprised. It's just there's nothing here. I have no interest.
Yeah, I mean, it might be the only way I do it is like it's he owes me sort of thing. But
Right.
I was like, oh, he's had this at this age, he's done this. Oh,
Yep.
he's sure to improve. Well, maybe he improves later. That's your pathway, but he didn't show any signs of it.
Speaking of ADPs that have crashed, last guy I wanted to ask you about, someone that was I have to look, but probably like a 10th, maybe like a 12th, 13th round last year. Josh Donaldson in New York. ADP is now 414 in DCs over the last 3 weeks. He was bad last year, no doubt. Hit 222, 15 home runs, 62 RBI, and 546 plate appearances. He played a lot. It was not good. He was hitting the middle of the Yankees lineup. It was not good. They didn't like him. He didn't like them. He had the issue with Tim Anderson. It was a bad year for Josh Donaldson all around. Hard hit rate was still pretty good, 42%, but that was a 10% drop from the year before. Barrel rate still decent, 9.8%. That was a 8% drop or 7% drop in that metric there. But you still look at it. Barrel rate 66th percentile, hard hit 68th, exit velo 81st percentile. Still hit the ball hard. K rate spiked though. Do you think that Josh Donaldson has anything left? He's 37. Do you think he's got a decent runway of playing time? Where are you with him? Because 414 is you're pretty much for free for a guy who was pretty darn good in 2021 in fantasy. 26 home runs, 72 RBIs, big hard hit numbers. He only hit 247, but that worked. And at this price, that would really work.
Yeah. I think I'd take him at this price. I mean, look at how tragic third base is. You know, people are complaining about how the depth at the position.
Yeah.
A guy that plays, we've seen stranger things. We've seen like an Evan Longoria resurgence a little bit at times, and we've seen other reasons to believe in that. And just, sometimes it's just about bullying playing time. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Oswaldo Cabrera. We'll see what happens with some of the other players like that. Yeah, he is definitely falling out of favor, but the contract kind of dictates he's going to get chances.
Yeah. And I think the thing with this is the price is like it's pretty much free, and I think we'll know pretty quick. I mean, if he looks the same for the first 2 weeks, I think LeMahieu will play a bunch, Cabrera will play a bunch, Peraza will play a bunch. They have enough really good options. I guess some guys in the minors too. I think that I think he's one of those guys that you take and May 1st, it's not there. I think it's an easy drop, and I kind of like guys like that. Like I just think that you can get some pop from him, and obviously if you get 2021, it's a huge win at the price. But I think we'll know pretty quick and pretty early if he's a hold or not. And I just think that's I don't think that's an awful thing in this range.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this Yankees lineup and I'm still so like uninspired. I mean, it could if you get bounce backs from LeMahieu and Torres kind of is who he is, and he's okay, he's fine, he's adequate there. You get in Donaldson, then it's okay. It's a pretty decent lineup, but I mean, it could be waiting for Volpe, waiting for Peraza and Cabrera to take a hold of jobs or something like that.
You mean the Aaron Hicks 30-30 season is coming this year?
I felt he got hurt exactly at the wrong time, but that's kind of the story of his career.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't hit over 240 in 4 years and doesn't hit the ball very hard. I was someone that's loved Aaron Hicks for a lot of years. I think now I'm like, yeah, I just don't think it's ever happening.
No. And the Yankees are in a weird spot right now. I mean, they could be, they're expected to, they spent big money on Rodon. They spent big money to retain Judge. So they're expected to contend.
Oh, yeah.
But you could see a pathway where they could be third in their division.
You could see a pathway where Baltimore comes early and they're fourth.
Yeah. You could, although Baltimore blew it this offseason, I think.
Yeah.
I think they needed to do a little something of anything of substance, but they're so embroiled in their own like ownership lawsuit and things like that. And like
you don't think Cole Irvin was that answer? The Baltimore pitching staff is rough. I like Kyle Bradish a lot, and obviously Grayson Rodriguez is special, but
how many innings is he going to throw?
Yeah, not very many. But you've got Kyle Gibson and Cole Irvin are both like it's hard to see. It's too bad because I mean the top half of that order could be really fun.
Yeah, I mean we decided we couldn't do without Jordan Lyles so much that we got two guys like him to be in the rotation there, just to eat up those innings.
Pretty much. It's just too bad. One middle name pitcher would have made that team look a lot more interesting. So yeah, you're right. Yankees are probably But yeah, you can see the Rays and Jays certainly beat the Yankees.
Yeah. Or I mean, you can still see if things go right, you could see 102 wins, but you could also see 82. I mean, it's weird to see the Yankees like that and have so much volatility.
The Frankie Montas news just bums me out. I really like him, and it's just I don't know if the shoulder's ever going to be.
But look at even accounting for that, look at the top four in that rotation: Cole, Rodon, Cortez, Severino. I mean, that's a good rotation.
Yeah, and they got arms in the bullpen too. I mean, they got
without a set closer, but
without a set closer. But yeah, Holmes is good. Loaziga is good. Lou Trevino was pretty good for them last year. I don't know where that came from, but he actually
could be good. I mean,
I just the Montas news. I just like him as a pitcher, and I like him as a guy. He was obviously really good with the A's. It just that shoulder has been an issue for almost a year now.
You could see the Yankees scoring 10 runs one game and one the next, though.
Yeah. I'd like to just see Peraza and Cabrera play, and I know it's not going to work out fully that way, but I think it'd be fun if they just slot those guys in the lineup because see what happened for a while.
Yep.
So cool. We're kind of through the names that I wanted to talk about. I like talking about late hitters. We'll do more of that. Obviously, we'll do a fade in a target episode later. We'll talk about category targets, stuff like that. But I just wanted to kind of throw out some names there that I think are pretty interesting names after 250. So that was fun as always. I want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. I want to thank Underdog and Fantrax for the sponsorship of the podcast. You want to follow Jeff on Twitter. He is at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. Other than that, I think we'll be back at you next Sunday night. No Super Bowl, so we'll be back maybe a couple hours earlier. So we look forward to that. Look forward to talking baseball as we get ramped up more and more in draft season here. So hope everyone's a good week. We'll be back at you next week. Take care.